men, especially men who run businesses, in my opinion, should spend extended periods of time away from their partner, away from their family in solitude to refine who they are and what they're about.
That's definitely a different way of thinking about things.
It
Yeah.
is, but it's from my own experience, bro. Like I just found that taking that space intentionally, even in the times where it's uncomfortable and it's almost like a safety blanket to be around my partner all the time because she's my best friend, in pulling myself away and having that time in solitude, it has allowed me to receive so much clarity that I actually come back so much more stronger as a man on the other side of that in my business and in my relationship. So I'm a big advocate for that. It's something
Man,
I feel men don't do enough of, you know?
that's true. I mean, I was just thinking about that. Like, women have their women's groups and circles, and they go off and do those things, and men don't. It's not like a thing that men do, I feel like, you know, we
100%.
don't.
Yeah, it's just like lone wolf it is one thing, but it's also just to bury themselves in the business or them and then just bury themselves in their relationship. And there's no out that they're in that kind of routine, habitual behavior of not stepping back and just actually asking some deeper questions and listening to what am I about? Who do I want to be? And how does the best version of me show up? I feel like so many men have lost touch with that
Mhm.
sharpness of who they are, you know?
Right? And we find it in solitude, and we find it even in connection with other men. So I love that you're doing this
Yeah.
work, man. I guess for people tuning in, you help high performing men, men in business that are running business in their relationship, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's kind of
No.
been the recent project of mine to hone in and focus on guys who are running business because I get it. Like we run businesses, right? We understand as male entrepreneurs that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, dude. Like to provide, to show up, to be successful, to achieve, and that can come at a cost sometimes when we don't have the guidance or the accountability or the reflections from other men especially who are walking this path to be able to show up at home too for our women, for our partners, or men, even if you're dating men. Like we need to have that support system. Otherwise, very quickly, the business or your work can suck all the life force out of you, and you've got nothing left to give to the people you care about.
Right, and I've definitely experienced that myself. I'm very excited to dive into this conversation. I think my intention is for those listening, if you're a man and this is resonating with you, like this is your episode, we really want to support you in that. And if you're a woman and you're like, oh my God, this is my man, or this is actually like who I want to call in, I think this will be a really powerful episode for you to listen into, to be able to hold that space and to navigate holding space for a man on a mission. So, how did you get into all of this? I know you shared a little bit about your story of this is kind of alive for you because it's what you went through.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, getting into all of this is like would be a larger story of me back when I was 21 years old, pursuing the career of finance and accounting and going into that world only to realize that was completely misaligned with what my heart and soul was put on this planet to express. And that whole process of figuring out who the fuck I was, what is my purpose, why am I here? I was just fortunate enough to go through that at quite an early age in my early 20s, right? Compared to some other men. And in doing so, throughout that entire journey, brother, since I was 21 years old, when I started this like deep introspective process, uh, my relationship began roughly around the exact same time. My relationship with my current girlfriend. So this is, and I turned 30 last month. So it's now 9 years since I've been on the journey of developing myself as a man while also developing my relationship and what that means. So throughout that entire process, there's been many moments where we were at the crossroads going like, I don't know if this is going to work out, or like we're going in different directions here, or me thinking it was something wrong with her, that it was her, that was like the attraction wasn't there. And the amount of times that I stepped back and went in and like took responsibility to some things and then showed up with clearer communication and we had deep, uncomfortable conversations, we're able to navigate transitions, come out the other side of it with more connection, more spark, more polarity. And I see it all the time, bro, that relationships end too early or men that don't have the guidance on how to navigate these turbulent times. And
Mhm.
I'm like, man, there's something here. I feel like I want to be a voice for guys to give them that support system and also for women to know how to support their man in their relationship and give him that reflection and that feminine nurturance that he's really yearning for, because it is a two-way street at the end of the day. But yeah, at the moment, helping the men is my main focus.
I love that. And I definitely want to get into diving into all that you have to say to support the men. I would like to talk first to the women. And what do you find are some of the patterns that women fall into that don't serve the relationship for a man who's really on purpose and on mission?
Probably expecting too much of him, to be honest. A lot of the times, these men that we associate with or we hang out with, we already put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like I said, and these men care a lot. Like the men that I'm around and working with, they care so much. They have such big hearts. That's why they become entrepreneurs in the first place. They've got a lot to give. And deep down, they really care about their woman. And where they get unstuck is sometimes they don't know how to express that properly or in the appropriate ways. And what ends up happening is the woman or the other person in the relationship will sometimes take things to heart and then almost like project that pain or project the lack of attention or the lack of love they're receiving in a way that pushes the man away, and it doesn't draw him in. So like my invitation to women is like, try to see that pattern or catch that pattern. Don't take the man's behavior personally that he doesn't care about you. Maybe he's just blind in certain ways. Maybe he's got the blinkers on. He can't see how you're needing his love or you're needing him to see you in a certain way, and treat him like that. Just make it simple for him and just give that honest reflection in terms of how you're feeling, instead of saying, oh, like you don't care about me or like all these things, because that's an assumption. And I hear that a lot, but that's not true. And if you just led with like, I'm feeling really disappointed or upset that you're prioritizing work over like our quality time. Can we talk about it? And then the man usually snaps out of it when he hears that, because he's like, shit, I didn't even know I was making you feel like that. I didn't even know that that's what was going on inside of you. So the antidote's pretty simple. Just like be honest with where you're at emotionally, feel it, acknowledge it, and then communicate it in a way that's true. None of these like valuations of things, like, oh, like he's abandoning me, he doesn't respect me. Like all those things are assumptions. None of it's actually true. Like ultimately, deep down.
Right, and I think
most
with
of the
a
time.
clear conversation, you can get to that point, because you can then have a conversation with a man and see where he's actually at, and instead of trying to figure it out all on your own in a very me-centric way of doing relationships, you kind of have that we-centric of like, let me just bring this to the table and let's work through it together. I really love that approach. I really love your content and how you like play out these roles and scenarios in real time in your reels. What's one of those that you have found, whether it's the most viral one or the one that got the most heat? I don't know. What's a scenario that you feel that people really resonated with, and could you speak more to it?
Yeah. Man, the skits are fun. Like ultimately, like I make these skits just for a laugh most of the time, and they end up providing value to people. And I'm sure some people look from the outside and go, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, it's just lame. But at the same time, if I'm enjoying it and it's a part of my creative process and it's providing value to people, like I'm just going to keep going. And ultimately, one of the ones that had the biggest impact was one where I was speaking about a man with mother wounds, and he would come home from work, and his partner was asking for for him to see her and what she was going through, and he couldn't do that, and he subconsciously projected his anger and frustration onto her for her not seeing him. And it's such a very common dynamic where the woman wants the man to see her, the man wants the woman to see him, and ultimately there's this like unconscious, unmet needs kind of war going on. And it just results in the man withdrawing his love and pulling away or shutting down or even minimizing his woman's emotions. And then it results in the woman kind of going into her masculine and, complaining or triggering him in certain ways, almost to wake him up a bit. And when that happens, like the whole kind of attraction of a relationship can fade pretty quickly, because you've both gone out of your natural poles, which is the man to come home and to be clear and to lead and to see and to support and protect and hold, and the woman to nurture, to radiate, to be gentle and to provide in that kind of subtle yet nourishing way through her femininity. And when that's lost, like, yeah, of course relationships are going to end. Of course people are going to cheat on each other. Like we're all yearning to be seen and understood at the end of the day. And it can be a lot simpler than what people realize once you become aware of just some of these dynamics. You've been in this work a long time, so you get it as well. Once you see all of this stuff, it's then a lot easier to catch it and not go down into those old loops or patterns and play out how you used to act when you were 15 in your first relationship, So that's what I intend to bring with the skits, and just bring more awareness. And that's what I found, bro, most of the time, is you bring some awareness to people, and people get value from that. Even though sometimes I'm like, this is stupid. No one's gonna resonate with this video.
Well, I
People
appreciate
do.
you doing this.
Yeah.
I've resonated with it, and I've definitely been that
Thanks.
guy where it's like, man, I poured so much of my heart and soul into my mission, and then I go on a date with my woman or whatever it is, and I literally just have nothing to give, and I default and have defaulted in the past to that, like, I just need you to mother me, take care of me type of thing, instead of like, let's nurture each other, and I'm self-resourced, and that's definitely been a pattern of mine that I thankfully have woken up to. And when I saw your reels, I was like, oh shit, that's what was going on. So it is providing value even to me. And I just want to say thank you. And
Thanks,
for those of you
brother.
tuning in, go check him out. Can you plug your Instagram real quick?
Yeah, Jordan Candlish, CANDLISH01. It's the same on TikTok.
And that'll be on the show notes as well. So yeah, I'm here. We're talking a lot about just, can you be vulnerable with yourself and bring it to the relationship? Have the conversation. And that is a pattern that I've seen play out with many of my clients as well, where they don't, because whether it's mistrust or you're so used to being so alone that it's like these women are like trying to figure it out to get clarity to then bring it to the relationship, and instead of just bringing the mess. And I've even fallen into that where I'm the man and I should have the clarity, so let me figure it out before I bring it. And I think we don't need to hold ourselves to put more pressure on ourselves than we already are with the missions that we have in life. I think it's a pretty funny dynamic that plays out. Humans are interesting. We really just want connection, and we're trying to figure it out on our own.
Yeah, and if we just like came at conversations with that understanding that we both want the same thing, let's talk about how we can help each other here, because that's the beauty of a relationship. You have a teammate in life, you have a partner that's there to support you in becoming the highest expression of yourself. Like, what a gift, bro. Like, such a fucking gift that we get that. And instead of seeing your partner as your enemy or someone that's out to trigger you or fucking mess you up, what if they were your greatest gift to show you what it is that you need to look at, what it is that you need to love, what it is that you need to let go of? Like, it's just, I see relationships as that. The purpose of it is to make us more conscious and more self-aware and more loving of ourselves, ultimately, at the end of the day.
Right. It's the space to go for that development, really. It's in the most mirrored way. You get to see all of yourself in that. And I think going to that relationship, that's my frame, and I'd love to hear yours, that relationships are the best space to go for spiritual evolution. And if we hold it as that, that's the purpose of relationship, things can change a lot, and you can move through things a lot differently.
Without a doubt. Yeah, there's a reason why we attract certain people into our life. There's no accident. And it's more about looking at, what is this person here to teach me? And then going like, okay, is this person in my life for a season, or are they here for a longer period of time? Because some people show up in specific seasons of our life to teach us lessons based on where we're at that time. And just seeing that for what it is, like you said, relationships are there to support our spiritual evolution, and spiritual evolution happens through pain most of the time. When we go through pain and suffering, that's when we're evolving. But if you don't see and process and integrate that pain and suffering, because ultimately it's coming from the past, unprocessed things from the past, if we're not integrating that and looking at it, then we just repeat the same loops. We just go around in circles the whole time, and we just attract the same people, go through the same triggers, the same fucking, pain and anger that we go through, when it can be like we can evolve up ultimately. So if you keep seeing the same patterns in your relationship, like, maybe it's something to look inward instead of looking outward.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. So what would advice, I mean, we kind of talked a lot about it, but is there anything that's kind of surfaced for you of like advice to these women who are in connection with these men who are on a mission and it's something that they want? Because that type of a man, and I just want to speak to this, is very different than a man who's not. You'll know when you have a man who's on purpose, and it's not just he's pouring into work and he's always spending his time at work. That type of a man may not be on purpose. There's a distinction and a difference. Could you first speak to that, and then how to support a man who is on purpose?
Yeah, well said, man. That's 100% true. Two very different scenarios there. The man who is clear on his purpose and is committed to showing up with more consciousness in his life, that kind of man needs a different kind of support in terms of he will be like if he gets supported in a way where you help him see where maybe he is falling short or not showing up in authenticity, he will very quickly course correct because he ultimately cares a lot about his relationship. He cares a lot about supporting his partner and whatever that looks like. And one of the best ways you can support these kinds of men, like I alluded to before, is get really clear on like what you're feeling and get really good at communicating the truth of what you're feeling. And I just use my own examples of how this has shown up for me, which like I used it before, but like the story that my partner had around me one time was that I didn't care about her as much as I used to. And when she said that to me, I instantly like pulled back and wanted to defend myself because I was like, no, that's not true. Like, that's not true at all. Why would you think that? You know, and I went into defense mode. And in conversation that I had with her, we were able to clear up around what was she actually feeling? Like that was a story about what she was feeling, but what was she feeling? And she was just feeling like kind of a little bit upset that she wasn't getting my attention in certain ways, or we weren't having as much fun as we used to. So in her communicating like, this is what's going on inside of my body, I was pulled in. That pulled me in and gave me an opportunity to lead her, to hold her, to go, fuck, understand why you're feeling like that. And that makes sense. I didn't even realize, fuck. And then I just hold it, like be present and just own it. And then come to an agreement with her where we design a new way we're going to go about things so that she's feeling more seen by me, you know, and just that those little things that, you know, a woman can bring is the difference between drawing someone in and pulling someone away that I found to be super helpful. I don't know about you, but that was a big one for me.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well. And I can speak from my own personal experience of the more that I have gotten a safe space to have those types of conversations for myself as the one who, you know, in my past, it wasn't safe to have those conversations. Stuff with my mom, like I couldn't do that. She would flip and I didn't want that. And then I attracted relationships where I couldn't have these types of conversations because they would flip. And so I've gratefully and thankfully been in spaces now where I've been able to like lean in and open up more and have those types of conversations. So I want to speak to the ladies, and I know what it feels like to where your truth has been shut down or it hasn't been safe for you to even have those types of conversations. And I just want to say that the pattern will continue unless you lean in with courage and do something different with someone different and allow yourself to experience what that safety feels like. Because I know I've seen a lot of women sabotage healthy dynamics because they still don't trust from their past. And so, you know, Jordan, what you're saying here is so spot on. And I just want to give that permission of like, it's going to be tough to rebuild that trust in your body and in your system, but inch in, lean in to that, because that's really where the growth is, where the connection is going to be.
Big time, man. Well said. You have to be willing to trust again. And I guess that's the hard part for women and men who have been hurt in the past by certain things. It's like, can I trust myself to open my heart again and give this another shot? But ultimately, the word trust comes down to feelings that were felt that you didn't like. And once you're able to integrate those feelings and bring wholeness to yourself, because the reason why you were mistreated or betrayed or like hurt or let down was so that you can come back into closer union with yourself. And in receiving that, that's when you can be like, you know what, I can't open my heart again because I know I got me. I know I'm going to be good, you know? So I feel like that brings a lot of freedom as well, that I feel people have to go through. You have to experience that depth of love with yourself to really hold this level of like full trust. And when you operate from that place, like us, and when we're getting on this conversation, there's just an instant connection that you have with people when you operate from that place of full trust, which is like, I know myself, I know my heart, I got me at the end of the day. And you just start interacting with other people who come from that place as well. And it's beautiful. It's so easy to like meet soul family, you know, it's just, and I feel everyone's yearning for that. And if you're listening to this, you're on the path to that. So rest assured.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I think too, there might be this assumption that, and this, I'm just speaking to the female psychology for a second, and this is just something that I've seen with working for women over the past decade, is like this subconscious expectation, which you talked about in the beginning, that if he really cared about me, he would prioritize me over work or over the mission. And that level of thinking and managing that, like, you just really look at your conditioning and look at those beliefs and question them. As a man who's on a mission and on purpose and been in relationship, like, it doesn't have anything to do with less love for you, and there's not more safety in sacrificing to choose you, right? Like, that dynamic is played out in movies and books and songs and all over the world, right? And it's like, I think when you shift to accepting his mission and his purpose and nurturing that so he can be in his best self for you, it's way more attractive. And it's very similar, I'd say, ladies, to you, like, being in your sensuality and having your, like, being turned on by life. If you're not feeling that, you're not going to bring your best self to the relationship. And the same is true for men with their sense of purpose. And I think that that's just really important to honor. And I just want to speak, I just don't know, I wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, I love that, bro. Yeah.
For the guys, you know, what are some tips and advice that you would have for them on how to make sure your woman is well loved while you're still pursuing this mission and not go into pouring all of yourself and then having nothing else to give type of dynamic?
Yeah, it's a big, man. Whenever I give this advice, it's always reminders and tips for myself as well, because I've by no means mastered it. So I want to just preface by saying that. And what I've discovered when it comes to this is having because I was getting good. I've gotten good at having a plan for myself, a plan for my business, a plan on what I need to prioritize so I'm showing up at my best. So at a baseline, that's the thing you need to get good at. It's like, what do you need? And then how do you need to plan your life in order so that you're responsible for yourself, your business, and making sure that you're in charge of things, your domain. And then the thing I missed for a while was, like, what's the plan for the relationship? What have I sat down and reflected on? What does my girl need this week? How can I make her life easier? What's actually important to her this week? What are some decisions I can take off her plate? What are some things that she really cares about that I can actually go out of my way and express my love by showing her that what you care about, I make sure I care about it too. And that was the thing that a lot of men who run businesses overlook, because they're so focused on their business and growing and showing up in their purpose, which is fine. But it doesn't take that long to just be like, what does my girl need today? What's she going through this week? You know, and if you've given yourself that space and that time and the practice of being in your body, if you've given yourself that, then you will have capacity available to step into her emotional world and be empathetic when she's expressing emotions and not feel overwhelmed when she shares things with you. That's the gift that we then get to give, right? As, like, stable masculine leaders, like, to be like, I can feel you're going through something right now, and I got you. Like, let's bring it. Like, what are you going to share? Let it out. Like, how can I? And then not even ask, how can I support you? Just know what she needs to be supported, and that's a beautiful thing. That's the next step. It's that, just having a finger on the pulse and just being the fucking leader that sees things and knows what needs to be done before it even needs to be done. And it sounds like a lofty goal for some of us, but we should be yearning or striving for that. And just keep moving in that direction, because our families fucking benefit when we have a man that's in charge, a man that's, like, leading in that way. I recently came back from a retreat out in Africa, and I got to spend 4 or 5 nights in one of the game reserves just out of Kruger National Park, watching and spending. And I got to camp out there and got really close. We're tracking animals like lions, rhinos, elephants, dope. All of that. It was so cool. And what I learned from that, bro, is that animals, we're very similar to animals in some regard. You can see that we come from animals. And the primality of how they showed up, right? There was no, like, interpretation of what they were doing. It's like, oh, that's right, and that's wrong. The animals were just showing up in a way that was based on their primal instincts. And what I witnessed in the lion, which was very fascinating, the male lion will spend a lot of time away from the pride with his brother, with another male lion, just patrolling the perimeter, patrolling the territory. And every now and then, when he feels like he wants to come back, he'll come back and spend time with the mother and with his female partner. And they'll have sex whenever he wants to have sex. And he'll feed on food. And the female lion does all the hunting and does all the, like, nurturing of the child. I was like, man, that doesn't, like, if a human male was doing that, that'd be some fucking sexist shit going down. Like, that would not be good. But in the animal kingdom, that's what's required for there to be protection and safety for the pride. The male lion needs to be on patrol. He's out. And when he comes home, the woman does the hunting, hunts the animal, and then lets the man eat first. Like, what a trip. But like, how interesting is that animal dynamic of like masculine and feminine? And it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just what it is. And we have that within us too. I mean, probably to not that degree because we're humans, we're different to lions, but there's some primal aspect of how men show up and how women show up that we get to honor and observe and support. Because, you know, if we want to have sustainable relationships, we have to come from nature. We have to operate from our true nature. So yeah, it was a great lesson for me being out there watching animals. Animals and nature provide such great, you know, feedback for us as humans, I believe.
The ultimate teacher, that's for sure. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. I got chills when you said that. I was like, damn. And that just speaks to the like spending time alone bit as well, and how important that is. And I think honoring that and not being like, oh, he's abandoning me and this is my neglect stuff and he doesn't care about me. It's like he's recharging so that he can show up as his best. Can you reframe it? And I think, and then even men like, oh, this is a need of mine and I need to fill myself up to be able to pour in with overflow, and just speaking to that. The power that would have.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%. And the nourishment of being out with your brothers, your men, the men in your life who you connect with, and talking business and talking like the things that fucking light you up about being a man, and doing that with just men. Like we spoke about that at the start of the podcast, like how important that is, because in the animal kingdom, the same thing applies. Like we need to have that, like to be around masculine environments without the women. It's a part of nature. It's necessary. So yeah, be like the lion, bro. If we want to be the fucking kings, we need to learn from these lions.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Anyway.
What else would you say for men that would help them? Maybe there's a guy listening to this who's edging on his purpose and doesn't quite know what it is yet, and develop that. Do you speak to that at all, or could you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah. That was such an early part of my journey, was just trying to figure that out. And what I realized, it figures itself out when you just start to slow down and listen, because the reason you don't know your purpose yet is because you just haven't spent enough time listening and inquiring into what's this inner voice back there that's independent of all the noise and the programming and all the things that other people are doing. What deep down here lights my soul on fire, and that can I be courageous enough to pursue that relentlessly? Because if you don't, you're gonna die with regret. You're gonna die with this feeling of incompleteness, and that is one of the biggest fears I know a lot of men have. So take the solace, the solitude, whatever solitude you need to listen and just ask the question: what is my highest expression? What is my highest purpose? Listen in meditation. Listen through abstaining from distractions, social media, alcohol, smoking, drinking, whatever it may be. Clean yourself up and let yourself be a channel for this like higher purpose and higher expression to come through. And then when it does come through, just fucking go after it, bro. Like, I'm such a big believer in just pursue it. Like, nothing else matters. And you'll be amazed at how much God or this higher intelligence supports someone who's following their highest purpose with pure intentions. I'm just speaking from my own experience that I've always been taken care of. So
Most definitely.
Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I'd say, I think just going after it savagely. Like, it's going to be messy. You're going to have feelings come up. But like just the savage pursuit of, I'm going to figure this thing out and take action and mess up and have this failure and get rejected and all the things. And this thing's going to go wrong and this system didn't work and this business partner didn't work out, whatever it is. But staying connected to that purpose has been such a vital part of my life. And when I fell off of that, I had a near-death experience. It was kind of in a very weird space for 4.5 years. I wasn't connected to the purpose. And so I got lost and I became a shell of myself, and I was pursuing women and not really myself. And when I came back to who I was and myself, that purpose started to show up again, and it had evolved, and it called me even forward and even higher. And so, that solitude is very important. I'll just add too, like in my experience, it was deepening and knowing myself. Who am I? Who am I not? What's
Yes.
the, the impact that I have on the world around me? And then making that the thing and just amplifying that even more and being a channel for that and go, oh, that's how God's using me? Cool, let's double down on it. Let's triple down on it. Let me do everything that I can to make sure that that continues to pour through me in every fucking way possible.
100%. And then once you realize that God is on your team and that God is the ultimate teammate and you literally can never lose when you accept God to be on your team. God or this higher intelligence is waiting to be picked by you to be in your team. And when you do pick him or her or this intelligence, you cannot lose. I believe that so strongly because that force is the creative force that brought life onto this planet. There is nothing that can defeat that force of love. So even when you fall into fear, even when you see fear, things that trigger all of the things that you're afraid of, just know that it's false. It's not real. Because the only thing that is real is that force of love that's moving through all of us. And when you strengthen that belief system, in my opinion, it's a belief system when you just keep strengthening it and knowing that God has literally rigged life in your favor, and every time you lose sight of it, it's just an opportunity to practice coming back. Then all of a sudden your beliefs translate into certain feelings that show up in certain actions, and those certain actions then translate into a reality that's mirroring back to you your belief in this like higher intelligence of love. And then you start getting mirrored love back in your relationships, in your business, opportunities, synchronicities. You just know where to go, you know what to do. Like all of that comes from that internal place that we've just been speaking about. So yeah, man, I felt that. I felt that too.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And I'd like to now talk about women's part in this and how they can support and could support in holding the space for that, whether a man is trying to figure it out or he's deepening in his purpose or he's already on purpose, like, and how to help maintain that with him, for him. And this comes into the conversation of women being oracles, and the importance of that. And I can speak from what I have observed in my parents' dynamic. My dad had this business thing going on and my mom told him not to do it. He did it anyway and it lost the business, ultimately resulting in a slew of negative things, right? So that they had their own thing about that, but that was my first perception of like, whoa, like a woman's intuition, there's something to be said about it. And I think that as men, sometimes we can put blinders on and this is my purpose and I'm going to go after it. And that's more of the me mentality instead of, and you're in this with me. Maybe you're not building the business, but you're in connection with me. And noting that your woman can be a source of fuel to your fire and a compass and navigation in supporting you and moving that forward. And again, that's the teammate thing, like recognizing that you have a teammate. And I just wanted to speak to that for a second, because I don't think that it's been modeled much in society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, facts. So true. Yeah, I mean, it's twofold, right? When you have a partner, you know, or a woman who is supporting a man who is on purpose and on his mission, then one of her gifts that she brings to him is that intuitive pulse that sometimes he can't pick up because he's on a certain level of maybe intellectual understanding or seeing life from sometimes that logical, rational standpoint. But his partner, if she's male or female, like if she's predominantly more feminine, then she's got a finger on the pulse on an emotional world more than what he can, which is the intuitive place. Like that oracle gift that you shared is like where your partner can bring you the insights before you can even see them, or share with you like, hey, maybe we should go here. Maybe we should consider this. And that's been a huge lesson for me is don't get stuck in rigidity and be open to learning from what my partner is seeing that I'm not. Because usually she is picking on things that I'm not. And like sometimes I've got like this like narrow minded, like, no, we're gonna go in this direction. We have to go here. This is the path. But listen, like we gotta listen, men, to our women, especially when you're in union with them, because they know things that we don't. And then that's beautiful. And then a man that's not on purpose or in his mission, and if a woman's listening to this and she's with one of those men, then that's where you can just continue to support him by nudging him and helping him see, you know, like, hey, like maybe certain behaviors that he's bringing to that relationship is making you feel like you want to pull away, or maybe it's not inspiring you in certain ways, and just help him nudge him that you have higher, you have a higher like vision for his life. And I think if you can keep supporting a man and reinforcing positive behaviors in him, and then reflecting back the negative behaviors without labeling them as bad, just reflecting back when he's doing things that aren't supportive to the relationship or you, then you can give him a chance. But ultimately, it's down to the man to decide that for himself. Like, you can't enable, or, I mean, it's up to you at the end of the day, but I wouldn't hang around. If I was a woman, I wouldn't hang around with a man who's not actively trying to better himself, for the good of the relationship and for the good of himself, because he's coasting. Those men are the ones that kind of just like in cruise control, and your relationship isn't going to thrive if you're allowing that. So I hope that makes sense. It's a tough one because every situation is different.
Most definitely, and it's also not going to work out because you're going to try to wake him up to his purpose and save him and all the things. And it's like, use your gifts with somebody who's ready to fucking play the game with you.
Facts.
At least to have that willingness.
100%.
I think that's really important. So I'd love to hear, if you're open to sharing a little bit about your relationship. I'd love to hear about y'all's story and any wisdom and insights that you've learned along the way. I know that's a big part of what you teach, but I'm always curious about that if you're open to sharing.
Yeah, of course, bro. Yeah, we have a very unique relationship because we've done things that most couples have probably never done, which is we've done probably collectively over 2 years of long distance throughout the time of our relationship, which is a long fucking time. 2 years of being apart from each other. She's from Canada, I'm from Australia, so that the relationship started off like that. We never planned to stay together. It was like I met her on exchange while I was studying and thought that was it, but then something called us to be together and we gave it a crack. And then she flew out to Australia and lived with my family during in the early stages of our relationship. We lived with my family for almost a year. And then I ended up going out to Canada after I quit my corporate job and lived with her family for a year. So we've spent a lot of time with each other's families, and living with your family alone is hard enough, bro. Like, throw in your fucking partner and throw in that dynamic, and Jesus, you've got a lot of spiritual growth to happen. And fortunately, we got to do that, and what that built was a level of connection and just a level of depth in our relationship that's been very hard to break. Like, even when we go through tough times, we always find a way to come out because the foundations are so solid. So there's that. We've lived in close to over 10 countries now over the last few years and traveled a lot together. Now she helps me in my business and she's the head of marketing for my business. And that's a whole nother challenge, right? For the guys who run businesses, like, what that's like. There's a whole new level of responsibility and communication and expectations that need to be expressed. And in all of it, man, I feel what it's come down to is, like I said before, is she is my teacher. She's not there to make me happy. She's not there to make me feel loved. And we're there to support each other into the highest expressions of what we're here to bring to this world. And if there ever comes a point, we're both at peace with the fact that if there ever comes a point where we're being pulled in different directions, this relationship's not meant to be, then we have to be willing to honor that and let it go, which is a scary thing. But I'm yet to step into the world of marriage. I'm yet to step into the world of having kids. I will. In the right time, but I know that's going to open up a whole new set of things, and probably what I'm saying here today will probably be completely different in a few years' time, and that's all right. But ultimately, it's been a blast, bro. I date my best friend. I date someone who I'm still attracted to just as much as I am now as the day I first met her, and that's a blessing. I'm so grateful for that, because I know a lot of people want that in their life, and I'm blessed to say that I have it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, bro. What would you say, in the long distance, do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, try to avoid it as much as you can. But if we're speaking to the men, we're saying that, hey, you need to spend time away from your missus. So, like, put yourself in that discomfort of, like, cool, you're not having sex every week. Have a break from the hugs and the cuddling and the kissing. Just, like, tune into yourself. But if there's forced long distance, or even when you are doing conscious long distance, still be in communication. I feel like communication is so important. Is like, just keep your partner in the loop around what you're up to, what you're feeling, and it's so important to still have those relationship check-ins during that time. And a relationship check-in is where you initiate, as a man. I believe the man should lead it. Initiate a conversation where you start to bring up, where are we at? What's happening? Is there anything that's going unexpressed? Is there anything that you're feeling that I don't know about? And is there anything that the man wants to bring and communicate and request? So initiating those conversations, it could be once every few weeks, it could be once a month, but you'll intuitively know when it's time to have one of those. I feel like that's super important. It can be done over the phone or on FaceTime or whatever. But ultimately, long distance will make or break your relationship pretty damn quickly. And if it makes your relationship, I do believe that relationships that make it through long distance end up staying. They sustain.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience, at least.
Yeah, those hard times set the roots for the foundation in a lot of ways. And so I really
Correct.
admire y'all for living with families and going deep and all the ways. I can imagine that was a lot of work came up, but that's how you've gotten to the point you've gotten and where you were able to say, you know what, I'm in this until it's no longer in alignment, if that ever happens. And I don't want that, but you're in it. And, it's really in seeing somebody and being with all of that stuff and the long distance. And I just see the groundwork that you put in, and I want to highlight that for people listening. It's like sometimes we rush to wanting it to be like it is where you're at 9 years in now, and it takes time and it takes spaciousness and it takes work. And I'm also preaching to the choir as somebody who tends to jump into things quickly. That I admire that, brother, and I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. But like at the same time, people can go through, lots of different trials and tribulations in their relationship, maybe all through their 20s, and then in their 30s, bang, just meet the one. And it's just both instant, the pain and the lessons from the past relationship cleared the space for that immediate, like, poof, you're there. So that can happen too, and it does happen. Just my path's been this one, being the same one for 10 years, which is beautiful.
That's awesome, man. Well, what do you have coming up? I know you're doing work, you're leading men's groups and retreats, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff. You got anything new coming up?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I am really looking. I see an opportunity for men to come together, especially men who run businesses, to be in spaces with other guys who are also in relationships, to have that counsel, to have that feedback or support. And I'm really endeavoring to create that. I have created that. So if there is a man that's listening to this that wants to be in that space, because something powerful gets unlocked when you just get to show up consistently with a group of men who have got your best interests in mind. And you know what it's like, bro. You've been in men's groups, and it's sharpening yourself. You're sharpening yourself, and you learn a lot from other guys who are further ahead of you in the journey and earlier on in the journey, both in business and relationships. So I'm trying to create, or have created, these groups where I can bring guys together and we can meet every week and get that support, and also learn what it is that we need to learn based on my own lessons and things like that. So there's that aspect. People can just hit me up on Instagram if they want to learn more about that. And then there's the retreats. Like, I've run 3 retreats now over the last year, and something that I fucking love, man, more than anything. I love bringing people together, love connecting with like-minded people and creating that space in person, because there's nothing else like it. True bonds and connections are formed. Lifelong connections are created from these events. The next one's going to be happening in Cape Town in South Africa in October. I know it sounds like an interesting destination, especially for the people who've never been to South Africa, but while I was there was something really special about that land, especially Cape Town. It's the Earth chakra. There's a real vortex of energy out there. So I thought this is the place. This is the place to have it. So hit me up again on Instagram if you want to learn more about that too.
Heck yeah. All that will be down below in the show notes. Brother, thank you so much for coming on. This is a fucking awesome, powerful conversation, and I know that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. So I just want to say thank you for your medicine, thank you for your heart,
Dude, thank you
for your purpose, and for coming on the podcast.
Dude, it's a privilege, honor and privilege. This is so much fun, and I love what you're up to as well, bro. Like getting these conversations out to the world, spreading the good message, and yeah, just keep doing what we're doing. Looking forward to crossing paths in person soon.
Same. Bada boom.